Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to another episode of the Andrew Parker Show. We're going to talk about the Middle East. And despite the Democratic Party, we may have, at one point here, not too distant future, peace in the Middle East, a broader peace around the world because of the destruction of the most malign regime anywhere in the world, the Iranian Islamist regime. It does need to be destroyed. It has needed to be destroyed for many decades, and no president has been willing to do it. There's been no backbone of the American people to go in and get it done. Even now, the Democratic Party, from the beginning, has opposed this action. They will continue to cater to the Islamist radical haters within the Muslim religion. These Islamists have killed thousands, tens of thousands around the world, but many Americans come either from death from the Iranians or from their proxies. And basically nothing has been done until now. And without the threat out there of this scourge on freedom and liberty, on this scourge of on humanity, we might be able to further peace in the Middle East. So we have a chance. But the Democrats are fighting it every step of the way. Listen, I'm not saying that the Republicans, the conservatives in the United States are perfect or they have the answers to everything. They certainly do not. And I don't want to be labeled one way or another, but what the Democrats are doing during a time of war against an enemy that needs to be destroyed and has needed to be destroyed for a long, long time. Heck, they killed thousands, tens of thousands of their own people in the streets. Where were the protests on college campuses here in the United States? Where were the protests of the liberals, the progressives? Where were the protests of the women's groups, women's rights groups? As we all know, the Iranians relegating the women in their society to second, third, fourth class consistently. Disappearing people, never to be seen again. Anyone who opposes the regime, murdered. Publicly, often. And that doesn't even include all of the suicide bombings and terrorist killings, murders around the world, not just against the United States and Israel, but around the world. This malign actor is now all but destroyed. Despite the Democratic Party, it's all but destroyed. Again, they are on the wrong side. They take the side of the haters, the murderers. They take the side of Hamas, of Palestinians who took up arms and beheaded babies, who murdered the Bibas redheaded twins, ages, I think, 1 and 3, who burned children alive in front of their parents, who murdered Holocaust survivors, who raped and beheaded women, these Palestinians. And what came out of all of that, not just October 7th, but the past many years? Well, a Gallup poll just came out a day or two, in fact, before launching of this war on Iran. So it was just before that, toward the end of February. And Gallup is generally a pretty reliable mainstream polling operation. And they have been doing this poll since 2000 for a couple and a half decades. While Israel is still viewed slightly more favorable than Palestinians, 41% of Americans now say they sympathize more with Palestinians in the Middle East, while 36% sympathize more with the Israelis. It's the first time that has happened. Where does that come from? Not enough Jewish blood was running in the streets after October 7th? Those atrocities weren't heinous enough? Carried out by Palestinians against Jews, against Israelis, against peacenik Israelis. Virtually all of these kibbutznik residents who were murdered were big two-state solution, peace, and a country for the Palestinians murdered. That's not what this is about. What this is about is the destruction of the Jews. And if you don't believe me, it is right in the Hamas charter. Look it up. Google it. It is obvious. No, but Americans, sure. Is it technology? Is it that they're polling a different population than we used to have here in the United States? It is turning to death and destruction. It's the Democratic Party that is supporting this Palestinian death and destruction, really a death cult, which is what it is. And the Iranians at the helm of it, at the head of it, and the Democrats every step of the way opposing taking down this hate, the Iranian hate, the Islamist hate, opposing, fighting against this Islamist hate, fighting against it every step of the way, the Democratic Party. So what about this Gallup poll? Yes, there's a 5% gap. Palestinians now more sympathized with by Americans. 5% difference. It's not, according to the poll, statistically significant, but it contrasts with a clear lead for Israelis by 13 points and even larger leads over the past 25 years, consistently. It is now flipped. How do you explain it? From 2001 to 2025, Israelis consistently had a double-digit lead in America's Middle East sympathies, with the gap averaging, listen to this, 43 points between 2001 and 2018 in favor of Israel versus Palestinians who do not want to live side by side in peace with Israel. The Israelis do. They do not. They want to murder and maim. And don't get it wrong. Oh, that's not true. There are so many Palestinians that love their Israeli neighbors. Please. Enough of that. Foolish. Wishing, hoping. Yasser Arafat made sure that for decades, kids were raised to hate. Kids were sent to summer camp to hate, to learn how to kill Jews when they see them. Oh, Parker, you're a crazy fanatic. What do you mean? It's true. And it can be seen in video. It can be seen in textbooks. It can be seen in television within the Palestinian territories. And so it's not a wonder that you could find thousands to take to motorbikes and otherwise to go into Israel and carry out these heinous acts. What kids do that? 18 to 25 years old. Who could even carry it out? Well, they could. Walking time bombs from the time they were born. People say, oh, no, it's because the Israelis have the thumb over the Palestinians in Gaza and they... Billions of dollars have been given to the Palestinians. Billions. For their economic well-being. Electricity, water, infrastructure, all provided by the Israelis. They did not want to provide materials to build tunnels, but even that occurred. So it is bunk when you say, oh, no, these are peace-loving Palestinians who want to live with Israelis. Now, people say, yeah, but the Israelis aren't peace-loving either. Look at, they bombed. And what do you think the United States would do if those heinous atrocities were inflicted on U.S. citizens in Des Moines or Indianapolis or Peoria, or how about on the East Coast or on the West Coast? No. It would have been far more. So this Gallup poll goes on, again, 43 points between 2001 and 2018 is the average gap. However, public opinion began narrowing in 2019, several years before October 7th. How is it that happened? You think it might have been technology? You think it might have been the lies on TikTok and other social media about the Middle East conflict, about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? The blatant, unadulterated lies that are online that people see so often, they start to believe them. They start to think that the Palestinians are the indigenous people to that land. Oh, no, they're not. And there is no historical fact that can support that. None. The indigenous people are the Jewish people. And Israel was simply a reestablishment after a third of all Jews in the world were murdered by Europeans, by Germans, and others. A third of all in the world, systematically, through a focused, legally developed process and system, was put in place. Israel was reestablished, but not without the offer of peace and establishment of a country for the Palestinians. Don't rewrite history, and don't allow it to be rewritten. Why? Because Gallup polls come out with results like this if you do allow history to be rewritten. It can't happen. You need to know. And it's simple. The indigenous people to this land are the Israelis. Nonetheless, the Israelis accepted their little piece of land, smaller than New Jersey. 9 of them could fit into the state of Minnesota. 9 countries of Israel could fit into the state of Minnesota. And they accepted it. The Palestinians could have. They didn't. Why? They should have. But then after that, 5 separate times, they were offered their own country, completely autonomous, complete control. 90 to 98% of all the land that they could ever claim is what they lived on was offered. Yes, up to 98%. 98%. No, every step of the way. Yasser Arafat and subsequent leaders, no. But they took the billions and they put it into terrorism. And that's what they've done ever since. This has not been about a 2-state solution. What it has been about is 2 things. 1, the complete destruction of the state of Israel and the entirety of that region being taken by the Palestinians, never accepting UN resolutions in 1947, 1948. And secondly, the indoctrination of Palestinians to hate and to desire to murder and maim Jews. It has been consistent. And we have seen it time and time again. Even though you would hope that it wouldn't be the case, it is. And we have seen it again, time and time again. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you a business owner? Are you losing sleep because you feel your partner isn't carrying their weight, or because you no longer share the same vision or values? Are you no longer comfortable going into your own office? Are you walking on eggshells in the company you built? This is Chris Daniels, founding partner of Parker Daniels Keyboard LLC, a premier litigation law firm headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. For more than 30 years, I've specialized in business litigation and have helped hundreds of business owners resolve troubling business disputes. As a former certified public accountant, I get to the heart of the dispute, including financial issues. Business divorce can be messy, time-consuming, and costly, but doing nothing can cost you a lot more. Not just money, but emotionally, physically, and in your personal life. If you and your business partner no longer see eye to eye and you're eager to take a proactive approach and make a change, please call me at 612-355-4100 and schedule a consultation. Or visit our website at www.parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you. Well, how many times is this going to be repeated before somebody does something about it? And Donald Trump has done that. But to the great opposition of the Democratic Party, consistently across the board, despite the fact that this war is going better than any war has since World War II in terms of successes, without exception, despite that fact, it is being reported by the Democratic media and it is reported by the Democratic Party as being the opposite. Oh, it's a disaster. Yes, we've lost a few soldiers, and that is not minor. That is significant. But over the years with Iran, we've lost huge multiples of that. In this war of attrition, we've been at war with them for 40 plus years. And it should have been dealt with immediately by Jimmy Carter. Of course, it wasn't. And now the Democratic Party wants to once again stand in the way of getting rid of this radical Islamic scourge, of bringing hope and peace to not only the Iranians, but to the world, including in the Middle East. People say, this is Bibi's war. What are you, a fool? This is so much beyond the state of Israel in terms of the impact that Iran has with Russia, with China, with North Korea, that Iran has with the greatest state sponsor of terrorism anywhere in the world. Their destruction is a huge step toward peace in the world. Peace in the world. We are a long ways away from it. But this is a big step toward it. Because they are anti-peace in the world. And I thought it was the Democrats that marched for peace. Remember Bob Dylan? Big liberal. Remember Flower Power? The 60s and 70s, shut down the Vietnam War, peace in the world. What happened to the Democratic Party? They're against peace in the world. Well, what do you mean? We're against this war. This is, because we're peace-loving. Being against this war is against peace in the world. Well, how can you say that? That's crazy talk. No. It isn't, because you have to sometimes confront evil, confront warmongers, confront haters, murderers, terrorists, murderers. And that's what's being done here. And thank God for the Israelis. Thank God for the American forces and the commander-in-chief. And the Democrats can't get behind it. They'd rather support Iran. They'd rather forget about the thousands, tens of thousands murdered in the streets, the Iranian streets. Iranian citizens by their own government. Having a different view, God forbid, in the streets. And these aren't accidental, obviously. So back to the unbelievable Gallup poll, as the moral compass of the United States continues to tilt into the abyss, the sludge of wastewater. How can there even be a comparison between the state of Israel that wants to live in peace, that's all they ever yearned for, and when the Golan Heights is annexed, It is in the name of peace. They're not firing to take over. They're trying to defend themselves. Apparently, once again, not enough Jewish blood is running the streets for people to have sympathies, as this Gallup poll speaks of, for Israel. October 7th, not enough. What does it have to be, 6 million more? And the Democratic Party is pounding the drum against Israel in support of Palestinians who murdered Jews and Israelis, in support of Hamas, in support of Palestinians who live in Tulkarm and Jenin and Qalqilia and who are organizing every day to murder Jews. And plots and plans are destroyed and interfered with by Israelis, by the intelligence operations in Israel, in the West Bank. And once again, repeating it, offered 98% of all the land. They would have their own country, be made up of the West Bank as it is now and other parts. They say no. Have you forgotten that? Since Gallup's update, they had one in February of 2025. There was the ceasefire in Gaza. And how does this happen? Americans' shifting sympathies in the Middle East situation are mostly driven by changes among independents. By 41% to 30%, independents say they sympathize more with Palestinians than the Israelis. Whereas in all prior years, they were more sympathetic toward the Israelis. Now, many of you might hear this and say, oh, Israel must be doing something wrong. Because why would American independents have such a flipped view? Well, when the drumbeat of lies continues in technology, on social platforms, that people consistently read, it starts to be believed. Democrats' sympathies haven't changed significantly over the past year, having already flipped strongly toward the Palestinians in 2025. This is after October 7th. And they first tilted that way in 2023. Mostly after October 7th. Currently, 65% of Democrats say their sympathies lie with the Palestinians, and 17% say with the Israelis. What kind of a warped party is that? Do you understand that there are no women's rights in Palestinian society? Do you understand the blood on the hands of Palestinians? Not defending themselves from terror attacks like Israelis have to do every single day, but by launching them, not by accepting a peace deal or negotiating, which Bibi Netanyahu has for 5 years now, and longer than that, if you add up his other time as prime minister, has had open standing invitation with no restrictions, no controls of negotiations for a Palestinian state. Now, that has recently changed. There is not going to be a two-state solution when October 7th happens, until there is some confidence that the Palestinian people are starting to raise their kids in a way that avoids incitement rather than promotes it. 17% in the Democratic Party sympathize in this conflict with the Israelis. Now, the Republicans, it's 70%. It's just a huge difference. And it's really disgraceful. There is few, if any, of the fundamentals of society that the Palestinians agree with U.S. society on compared to the Israelis. And the ignorance about it is astonishing, but maybe it shouldn't be, because it has been a launched, intended, systematic process that Yasser Arafat started 30 years ago. And it has now reached a tipping point. And it is dangerous. Further danger comes from the fact that these sympathies with the haters, those that want the entire destruction of the state of Israel, these sympathies run across all age groups. But again, heavily against the Israelis are the Democrats. Now, decidedly against the Israelis are the independents. And even the numbers within the Republican Party, while they are at 70%, that's down 10% from what standard has been, as Tucker Carlson and others like him push away from Israel. So how long before the United States and Israeli alliance, a natural alliance, one that is grounded in this similar or same values, how long is it before that alliance, I would say the number one alliance in the world, certainly more than Britain, France, Germany, Spain, any of the NATO countries, more than any country, more than Canada or Mexico, certainly. Number one ally. How long will it be before the Islamists who are pressing online, the quote-unquote moderate Gulf states who continue to press the hate of Jews and Israelis? Now, Israel is going to seek peace deals with them, for sure. But I think this information war is really the new front. And I think Israel will have to start now, if they haven't already, I know they have, to separate themselves and understand that they may need to go it alone. Because you cannot rely on the United States. You have now, in the Democratic Party, people like Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith, you would think, right in the center of liberal democratic policy and ideas, actually, openly pushing away from the state of Israel, openly pushing away from the common values that we have, because those common values do not exist with the Palestinians, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. They do not. And to suggest otherwise is ridiculous and despicable, really. So right there in the center of the Democratic Party, they're pushing away from the state of Israel. And that's why the numbers are at 65%. Sympathy for the Palestinians and 17% for the Israelis. I'm sorry for the pessimistic news. I continue to hope for protection for the U.S. military and for those brave, courageous soldiers in support of peace and liberty and freedom around the world, and certainly for the protection of the United States as we continue to pray for that. Until next time, this is the Andrew Parker Show. Go to theandrewparkershow.com and be kind to your neighbor. For more smart, plain talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments. Mark Twain once quipped, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. When you are lied about and it spreads, the resulting mayhem and destruction can be, and often is, disastrous." Hi, this is Andrew Parker, co-founder of the Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm. I recently handled a high-profile defamation lawsuit on behalf of a luxury home real estate agent whose business was decimated by falsehoods spread about him. After nearly 2 years of litigation and 2 weeks of trial, the jury came back with a verdict of more than $2 million for our client. Parker Daniels Keyboard. We litigate cases, we try cases, and we win cases. With a record of excellence in achieving extraordinary results, Parker Daniels Keyboard lawyers have consistently won huge verdicts for its clients in the areas of defamation, civil rights violations, regulatory battles, and intellectual property theft. For wise counsel and winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, premier law firm in downtown Minneapolis. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.